Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What was kind of crazy, and I think is like starting to change, is like these are like people with like master's degrees in science that work at a golf course. Like these are the most educated people at the golf course. Like I felt like it 10 years ago almost now when it was just like kind of like, oh, that's the superintendent. He cuts the grass. And it's like, no, there's a lot more to this than that. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, presented by Toro. Count on it. My name is Adam Kershane. I'm joined by Brian Laurent, and we have a guest co-host today, Mr. Phil Cuffare, the Director of Agronomy at Oakland Hills. And he's a former guest, a great guy. And originally I wasn't going to be here for this one. You know, we're on baby watch, and then we got some stuff going on, but I was able to make it here. Brian basically drives the bus for this thing, and Phil does a great job as well. So today we interview Andy Johnson from the Fried Egg, somebody who I never thought we would get a chance to talk to, but you know, through Brian's connections and where this podcast has kind of gone, Andy was kind enough to join us, and he tells some great stories. He's more on the architectural and history side of the golf world, but it's very insightful. Has talked to a lot of leaders in our industry, and has a good idea of kind of what the superintendent's role and our role is now in the game of golf. And we're very proud to bring Andy on and present this one to you guys. So I'll pass it down to the fellows now. Here they are.
I better have enough room on this new computer. Did you notice, Adam? I got my center stage fixed. It
looks really good
anymore. You like that?
It's nice. Yeah, it's better.
I like it. It's
nice clear picture too.
Yeah,
nice
and it's further out. It's further out, so you can't see my ugly mug as well. But
I was gonna say you're rocking the Fried Egg gear today. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I could be a man of the brand. You know what's funny is literally right before I jumped into the office, just got my delivery of new sweatshirts and hoodies and stuff from Levelware.
Ooh,
so I popped
nice.
into those and getting ready to get the new swag put together.
We met with the Levelware salesman yesterday here, Jen and I.
Did you?
New swag coming for next year. Yeah, Levelware's awesome.
I love their outerwear. It's so good. Their sweatshirts and everything. So we're gonna be talking to them. That's gonna be something I want to get, like a uniform program. We talked about doing some stuff where you can get your Oakland Hills in the front, and then maybe get a Superintendent Network Turf Today kind of on the sleeves, and
they're so
run it.
I mean, compliments to them. I just went to Bandon Dunes in October, but like when you go through these pro shops, I mean, their stuff stands out. I mean, it's just like super casual, not hoity-toity,
It's really good. So did you get to visit a bunch of the different pro shops at Bandon then?
Yeah, really, all of them.
So it's the one thing I learned when I was out there, and I'm not sure if they still do it, but each shop at each of the different courses has different clothing brands. They don't, it's like they don't sell Levelware. Yeah, they don't sell Levelware in all of them. It's just
exclusive.
It's pretty unique.
It is. And I thought each one, like, it's one of those when you go there and you're like, oh, I'll get something later. But really, while you're at that specific pro shop, you should get it right then and there.
Yeah,
That would be my one take.
That's why you come home with 7 different bags, because you've got to buy something different at each different shop.
Got a pack light going on that trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be coming home with a lot. That's for sure. So I missed that invitation, Phil. I must have gotten lost in the shuffle. I don't know.
It was a limited invitation.
Okay.
Incredible, though. I tell you what.
Yeah. First time.
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
I'd have to say one. I think they're all unique in their own right. Bandon Trails is off the wall. Bandon Trails was sweet, but again, I loved every single one of them. So,
what was your low round?
70 back-to-back 75s.
Really?
Yeah,
70. Pretty good.
75 Pack Dunes, 75 Sheep Ranch, 80
nice.
80, I think. Yeah.
Well, I was half expecting you were going to say shorties or something, but that's
No,
good. That's good.
shot 75 at the sheep ranch with the densest fog I've ever seen in my entire life for 15 holes.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, it was literally point and shoot. Like the caddy would like put down a tee on the tee, and it was like hit it over that tee.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
Just
Brian,
blind shots everywhere.
I literally striped it for 4 or 5 days.
That's awesome. So have you
Yeah.
been playing a lot of golf since the junior am?
I wouldn't call it a lot.
Yeah.
I'd call it like 1 or 2 rounds here, 1 or 2 rounds there, and then the Bandon trip I played like probably 3 times leading up to it. But
Nice. A
found
lot of
something.
Pretty good to be able to just shoot 75 after not playing very much. Still got it.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
got game.
yeah. But it was just epic there. I'm going back again in 2 years. It was wicked.
Yeah. No, it is a really cool spot. I'm excited. They're building that new rodeo dunes
Yeah,
outside of Denver.
yeah,
Michael Brewer was on this show. He came from Bandon, and
yeah.
he's the construction superintendent out there. So I can't wait to watch that thing evolve.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
they're popping out everywhere. They just announced recently they're doing one in the
Florida.
Panhandle of Florida. Yep,
Yeah,
yep. They're going to be building one down there.
Texas
So
too, I think.
what's that?
Texas, I heard.
Yep, they're building one in
Oh,
Texas
And they just got
somewhere in
approved for
Illinois.
another one in Bandon.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, they're gonna do another one in Bandon.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. This destination golf stuff's
So
really exciting.
the guy I went with was the guy that hired me in Chicago, guy by
Oh
the
yeah,
name of Mr. Hadelman, Jordan Hadelman. And he
nice.
is, I call him best friends, but with Mike Kaiser.
Oh, nice.
wow.
So you guys had an in.
They live 4 doors down from each other. And they
Outstanding.
walk
That
their dogs.
helps.
They sit on hospital boards together. They sit on the Evans Scholar. Like he's also a member at the Dunes Club, and they're extremely close.
Yeah.
So it
Oh,
was
that's
he'd
great.
been to Bandon 11 times.
Yeah.
So
Dunes Club was his first one, right? That's
yeah,
Kaiser's first one,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
how far is that from you? Like 3 hours?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a
It's
pretty
on the
special
west
place.
side of the state. We got to go. If you want to go, let's go.
Yeah, that'd be a
Because
blast.
I've never been there either. And Mr. Hadelman is like a mentor to me. He's like Jeff Corcoran. Yeah, I'd consider him one of my best friends.
That's awesome.
So
Okay.
said anytime we want to go. He's awesome.
Well, I mean, I've been looking at it. I'm home. I'm gone tomorrow, but then I'm home for like, I don't know. I've been home for 2 weeks, home for another week or so, week and a half. I'm like,
Yeah,
man, I should be out playing golf right now, but I think I've touched a club once in the last 3 weeks since I've been home, and it's been perfect. It's been
yeah,
absolutely
it has
perfect.
been.
Got to
Yeah.
get out. So for those joining the show, you might hear a different voice here. We thought we were going to have some conflicts, and Adam wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it, so we brought in a special guest host, Mr. Phil Cuffare from Oakland Hills. Probably going to recognize his voice and his name. He's been on the show before, fresh off the junior amateur championship. So yeah, Phil's got a nice relationship with our guest today. So I thought it'd be appropriate to bring him in here and help us out through this interview. So Phil, really appreciate you coming in and being a part of the show today.
Adam, Brian, thanks for having me. I got the call. They need the signal for the right-hander out of the bullpen late yesterday afternoon. So I'm excited to be here, and I wouldn't pass up the opportunity, especially to interview the interviewer, right? Andy Johnson, the fried egg. So
Yeah.
if it was anybody else, I'd probably pass it up. But Andy, I wasn't passing
Yeah,
up.
there you go.
So tell us about your relationship with Andy.
It's interesting. When I was at Oak Park Country Club in Chicago, I got this weird DM on Twitter at the time back in 2016, I think. And this guy says he was a big fan of the golf course. He was at Oak Park. And by the way, he was in the pro shop, played late last night. Epic Donald Ross. We were getting ready to host this. It's called the Radix Cup at Oak Park, and it's the best PGA professionals versus the best amateurs in Illinois. And Andy was one of the best amateurs in Illinois. And, he was just like this big architectural guy, loved what we had done with the golf course. It was rock hard, ripping fast, took down a lot of trees, and we just hit it off. And it was really before, I think the fried egg really became the fried egg. And he's like, do you mind if I fly a drone? Took some wicked cool photographs, and then started his Twitter page, and he highlighted Oak Park Country Club on it, one of his first golf courses. And we just hit it off ever since. And when I moved to Oakland Hills, they were asking about the restoration. The club was, how can we communicate it to the members? So I thought long and hard about it. And I'm like, one, I don't want to be stuck communicating to the members of Oakland Hills during a major restoration, working, 20 hours a day. So I called Andy and I'm like, would you ever think of doing something like this? So, I mean, obviously we're going to pay you and we're going to pay you whatever you ask, and he's like, what a great idea. Let me get back to you, and he got back to me. And next thing you know, he's communicating to our members, interviewing me, Gil Hance. And, Gil was so receptive. He was like, to do something like this, Andy's only like one of the few people I trust, and I love Andy and he's a great guy. So I thought that was awesome. And Andy's done a lot for Oakland Hills. So our relationship has blossomed, exponentially, and golf's the reason why, right? So it's one of the cool things about the game of golf. And I think whenever you look at it and you look at these relationships that we've all built, Brian, you and I, and hopefully me and Adam from here on, now that we know each other, but Andy and I's relationship, it's all because of the game of golf. So
is your relationship with Adam going to be dependent on the mustache though?
It could be, right? I mean, now that I've seen it, Adam, this might be something that you got to keep for a while.
Might have to keep it, eh? Well,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it looks pretty bad on the camera, but it's okay in person. But like I've
great.
said on the show before, it was all because of my wife. I'm not a big facial hair guy, but she's a fan of it. So,
and you've got to do anything she wants right now since you guys are on baby watch.
It's wild. Might have missed the podcast today because of a baby. So, Bill, thank God you're here.
Oh, that's awesome. That is great.
I told Phil we might have the first like on air, baby's coming, we got to go moment here. So
Yeah,
that can help ratings. I don't know.
That'd be fun. Yeah, be a fun little clip. Shit, gotta go.
Yeah, Adam. That's good. The due date was was it this week? The 7th?
It's coming up. It's the 9th.
It's Monday. Oh,
we've
Saturday. Saturday. That's right.
Saturday. So we've just been kind of told that we're not going to go that far. So she has her quote unquote final appointment on Thursday coming up. So it's a couple days from now.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see. But it's been weeks now where she's just like, it's so heavy, it's so low, it's coming. But
First one, Adam.
Second. We also have a 3.5-year-old boy running around here, so it keeps us entertained. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Entertaining. Yeah. And we still don't know if it's a boy or a girl. We're come right down to the wire here. We're going to find out in the hospital whether, he has a brother or he's got a little sister. We'll see.
Exciting stuff for you and your family.
It's a fun time, stressful time, but yeah, we're definitely getting through it. Turf Today is proudly sponsored by Toro. And when you check out Toro.com, there are lots of different options on there. Head to golf course mowers and equipment to see all the different options that Toro has to offer. You can check out the new Vista series, which is the solution for moving people quickly and conveniently in a variety of settings. All the different products are there, from greens mowers, fairway mowers, rough mowers, trim and surround mowers. There's so many different options with Toro, so check them out, Toro.com.
So back to Andy then, Phil. Who wins? I'm sure you guys have played golf a couple times together. Who's got the game?
Andy's a player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Yeah. He flushes it, Brian. You ever played with him?
I've not played with him. I've seen him hit some balls, and I've seen him play on a bunch of his different videos and whatnot, but never had the opportunity to play with him.
Yeah, he's got game.
Yeah. And he likes to play the hickories and that kind of stuff too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Probably smoked me with the hickories.
I actually had the opportunity to play with him at Oakland Hills the day after the Junior Am for an event that him and he hosted, and with myself here, and he was playing good. Yeah, very good.
I wonder if he gets to play quite a bit just because of what he does and so involved in the industry and everything, or maybe he's more like Brian where he has to travel and cover more.
Yeah,
it's hard to say, I guess.
That'd be a good question to ask him.
I see him playing a lot more than I do. I see him. He gets invited for a lot of like course openings and things like that, where he even gets to play, I think, before they open. So I've definitely seen him with sticks in his hand a lot more than us.
Yeah,
So Phil, we were talking a little bit. I mean, what's been the response from members, USGA, and all that from post Mid-Am?
I think really incredible. I think
Or Junior Am, excuse me.
the USGA was I think it felt so good for them to be back at Oakland Hills. There was a little stretch there that they weren't here, and to have it back here and to have the restored South be what it was, and not for nothing, but the North Course to be what it was too, and to put on a hell of a junior am with a hell of a field. Um, there's a lot of excitement amongst their organization and a lot of excitement amongst our organization. It just felt good to have a championship back here, even without a clubhouse. And I think it's just going to build to that next one with the clubhouse, right? And I mean, that makes for another great story.
Oh yeah.
I think the golf course showed well. I think, where we've seen this golf course mature to even after the junior am is just really mind blowing. And, and I think hosting the junior am kind of, lets the USGA know what we need to change going forward, or what they want to see, whatever it might be, narrowing down some fairways or whatever. I think it was a hell of a test, and obviously it's a match play test. So, it's only 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, 4 down type of situation. So you really don't know what guys were shooting. I guess you probably could figure it out. But
I don't know what they would want to change. That presentation of that golf course was absolutely
beautiful,
flawless.
Yeah.
How long did it take the guys to recover from backpack blowing all 18 holes, walking the entire golf course from tee to green to the next tee the entire way around? Those guys.
How many guys was that, by the way? Is that like 25?
I think it was like close to 50.
50. Some of those videos didn't do it justice then. That's a lot of guys.
Yeah. I couldn't speak higher of my staff after the event that these guys kept going, because our golf schedule was insane. With everything that's going on here, construction, everybody's displaced. The golf schedule was in shambles and packed. We had a junior am in the middle of it, so it pushed the golf schedule to a really condensed beginning part of the season and a really condensed latter half of the season, where we had invitationals, of all different sorts and guest days and all this. So the way they conducted themselves after the championship was unbelievable, and they just kept going and going and going and going, and here we are at the end. So stress has kind of left the building, so to say, and guys are leaving at 3:00, and thank God for daylight savings time. And I think last night it was getting dark at 5, right? So but they handled it well, Brian. Really good.
It's nice to kind of ride a little bit of that high, right? Like it's so competitive, it's so much fun. You're go. You got 49 people walking in a line with you. And then everything kind of dies down. So it's nice to kind of ride that high. That's why we talk about people wanting to volunteer and experience that, because then you get to bring that back to your own course and stuff. So it's so great that the volunteers and your staff get to kind of feel that.
Yeah, it was an incredible week. And, Brian, of all the events that you've been part of, whether it's the Memorial, I mean, I probably reflected more than those guys did, but I remember in 2013 hosting the PGA at Oak Hill with Jeff. I mean, that's a blur to me, where I kind of remembered this one going, hey, slow it down a little bit. Remember this stuff. Where those guys, it's probably a blur from them because it was their first one. But, it's a cool experience. And, the camaraderie is what brings everybody together, right? And that's the stuff, Brian, the camaraderie with you and Brian Thompson and Chewy and Nick Roth and you guys staying in that house. And, all that stuff is, Chewy not being able to get out of town to go back to Rhode Island.
What a nightmare that was.
But people having major travel difficulty even getting to Oakland Hills because of that whole, I don't know if it was Delta or whoever it was, but a lot of little stories in between the big story, right? And that's what makes those events. There's always something.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask, I mean, how nice was it to have those guys back for a week or a couple of days, whatever it was that they were able to stop in?
that's the stuff I love, and I'm a camaraderie guy. I think anybody that ever tells you anything about me is, I love my friends, family, high camaraderie culture, and that's what I love for the whole week, and being around guys like you guys and Andy and all that, because we've been doing it and it's our job to show the younger generation what this stuff is all about, and hopefully they take the baton and do it better than we've done it, so that's what I love. And it's a great homecoming for Chewy and Nick Roth and Taylor and all those guys, and their support means the world to me, because you can't do it without guys like you and them and everybody working together.
Any little stories or any little memories from the tournament at all? Anything that was kind of funny or stood out to you?
um that's a great question, Adam. I don't know if I have any funny stories, because I think I'm pretty serious and focused, where I didn't think anything was funny for that week.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's high
I
and
can
tight.
I can I can tell a couple, but I don't know if I don't know.
You have
I
to
don't I
prompt them.
wouldn't want to get Phil get too upset with me.
Yeah, go for it.
No, no. The only thing was I joked with your wife. I can't remember what it was. What was it? I can't
Oh,
remember what you're saying was.
right, right.
We right. Yeah, we had the counter going in the background.
Yeah,
And her and I are looking at each other with the counter going,
yeah,
1, 2, 3.
yeah. And she gets on me for that still, I mean, to this day, but it's like, I'm so happy someone pointed that out, because it's like, you got to get better,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
and if that's the only thing that went wrong, Phil, you did just fine, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it was great. It was great. That was your first time as, it being your show, your first event being your show. What were your takeaways? What are some of the things you learned being the top dog hosting one of those events?
The guys like Jeff Corcoran, Chad Mark, John Zimmers, those guys make it look easy.
Yeah.
That was my first take. My second take was, I learned a lot. And people that know me, I'm a perfectionist. And I think agronomically we performed outstanding. My takeaway is there's some details that we need to tighten up for the next one, and having my wife here, keeping track of those details, and having all the industry professionals here saying, hey, this is what you should do next time, or this is what we did that worked really well, or, and I know Jen and I plan on going to Muirfield to see Chad's operation, and, to Roney's and see Saucon Valleys, and, to John's and see his, and, all over the place, and maybe even Oakmont to see Mike McCormick's, and just see what you can do better, and different places have different logistics, and make the best out of everything. And the one thing I always tell myself, and it's not an excuse, but what we had going on here with the construction of a maintenance facility, the way everything is displaced around here and how we performed was pretty outstanding in the confines of what we had to perform in. So sometimes you don't have very many cards to play, and you got to play the cards you have the best you can. And sometimes I tell myself we played them the best we can at that particular moment. And when we have the new maintenance facility and the clubhouse and the parking, then the expectation is going to be a little bit different, and we need to perform a little bit differently and a little bit better. And so, my takeaway was I learned a ton. And I think being in the industry for 25 years, I'm 47 years old, been to a lot of championships. I think I still have a ton to learn, which makes me really excited. I think it's one of these professions that you're never done learning. And so I'm excited to learn more, and I'm excited to get better. So,
Well, again,
Let's
I don't know how you're going to get much better. I mean, it was phenomenal. Like I said, I mean, the presentation of the golf course was amazing. The organization was absolutely fantastic, and even just some of the things I saw you guys learn or decide to do on the fly, was really impressive. Like, hey, sitting in your office in the evenings, listen, all right, how are we going to adjust this? How are we going to adjust that? The team effort that it took, whether it was you, Nick, and Chewy, or you and the assistants, or whoever it was just
yeah,
really fun to be a part of that and listen to that whole decision making process take place. It was
I
it was
appreciate
really
it.
well done. really well done.
Stressful, and when you're at everybody else's golf course that's hosting a championship, you don't realize the stress until you're in the chair making the final decision. And but that was great. It was really I loved every second of it. And I'm always the type of person, it's like I can't wait to do that again. Like I want another shot next year. But thankfully we get it 4 years, I think, is the next one in 29. But there's no doubt we'll be better than we were, and we had a good performance though.
Yeah.
You got all the new facilities and everything, and it'll just get better, right?
Yeah.
What about the volunteers? Talk about that whole process about, trying to, like, first of all, how many volunteers are you looking for at a big tournament like that? And then what's the kind of the process for people to go through that? And then how do you take care of them when they get there?
Yeah, we had 60 volunteers from all across. I mean, Australia, South Africa, maybe Zimbabwe.
Wow.
Did we have Ireland? So when you think about it, the amateur events are really the hard tournaments to prepare for when it's 36 holes, because you got 2 golf courses to take care of.
Well, that was the first time they did it at the same facility, right? 36 holes at the same club?
For the junior am, it was the first time the field had been 264 players.
Without a clubhouse.
Without a clubhouse.
Wild.
Yeah. And with limited parking. So, the volunteers are what make these events, plain and simple. And I'm a people person. I love being around people. I love learning about people. And, we had an outstanding group of volunteers, and it was really cool because a lot of first-time volunteers, right? This isn't a U.S. Open where you're getting someone's, call it, their top guy. Some instances we're getting their top guy. Some instances we're getting the first-time volunteer, which I think is even cooler. And like I started off with the week saying, we have these 8 championships. So hopefully in 24, we get the first-time volunteer, and 34, we get the seasoned volunteer veteran back for the U.S. Open, and we see how everybody's progressed. We see how I've progressed, they've progressed, Oakland Hills has progressed, and what a cool story that is. But yeah, it's all about the people and the volunteers. We send out applications, so to say. It's not really application, but if they're interested, we're interested, and we give them a swag bag with shirts, hats, sweatshirts, half zips. We wanted to really make that experience outstanding for them and really give them something to be happy about, and something to go home with and remember us by. So yeah, 60 volunteers.
Everyone loves a good swag bag too.
Yeah. Kick
around. And that's not including the likes of Brian Loren, John Zimmers, Jim Roney.
The posse that comes in and gets in the way.
Gets in all the trouble.
Yeah, the entourage, right? I had a good entourage that week for a junior am.
You had a solid entourage. We had a good time. That was a great event.
Rich McIntosh, Mike McCormick shows up.
How about that? That was cool. I didn't think he was coming, and the next thing I know, was it Saturday morning or something? There he is. Like, hey.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
so cool.
Talk about Seth and his team and the importance of the equipment manager for getting something like that done.
Oh man, the equipment manager, they probably got the most stressful job all week because there's 3. We had our 3. We had Seth, Ben, and Hayden from our staff, but then we had Rebels Tractor mobile equipment tech Joey. Then we had two guys also volunteering, Rusty and Eric from Rebels. You have all these machines, cutting units. I mean, they're adjusting well over 100 cutting units, and to perform on 36 holes, it's nerve-wracking for them. It's very nerve-wracking because they have extremely high standards, and you have volunteers on these pieces of equipment that technically really don't know the golf course, and they're just going everywhere, and you got to hurt them and be there. But what they do day in and day out, even leading up to a championship, is incredible. But what they do during the championship, I mean, they're painting the masterpiece. Really, we're just operating it. We're just, their brush strokes are all over this place.
Can't do it without a mechanic. Like,
no way.
One of my biggest fears training years ago to become a superintendent was, what happens if I take a job and I don't have a mechanic, or the mechanic quits? Like that's a legitimate problem because if you're not able to do the job, that's the one person you need. So that they're very, very important. And at a place like that, when you can have a bigger staff and lots of support, that's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And our equipment manager Seth takes great pride in training underneath him, and outstanding individuals that totally get the standards and expectations. And here's where camaraderie comes into place again, is that these guys love to be here. They love to be around each other. They love the results they see on the golf course, and that stuff's contagious. And, they have some pretty good resources to work on too. And that always makes a great environment. That's why I'm super excited to get them in the new maintenance facility, because, when you get in an environment like that, your work becomes even more special. We're producing special things right now out of less than ideal work environment, but when you get in a tremendous work environment like they're about to go into, it just makes their work even more special.
Those guys are probably chomping at the bit right now to get in there.
Yeah,
How much longer do you have?
I say April 1st.
Okay.
So
okay.
They're doing a huge concrete pour tomorrow and Thursday and Friday and Monday, and they'll be done pouring concrete inside the building.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be cool.
Coming along.
Yeah, it's awesome. Really cool.
This has worked out well. I sent Andy a text. He said he's still good. So I don't know what if he had some time zones mixed up. He said 4:15 my time zone.
How long is this podcast?
Typically it's only an hour, Phil, but we'll see. We'll see. And if you need to jump off, you can jump off at any time. So
no, I'm good.
Okay.
I was just wondering, and I'm like, is this a Phil podcast or is this Andy?
This is quickly turning into Phil.
Yeah, it's worked out well. We got Phil part 2 right now. It's turning out great.
Filming two podcasts into one.
Yeah, it's great.
You got to see this building, Brian.
I was just say when we were there last, they just basically leveled the area, right? So there was zero structure or anything in place.
Here, I'm going to send
you during the junior.
You got your phone near you?
Yeah, oh yeah, always. How's the clubhouse then too? Is that thing taking shape?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. Got some walls and everything?
They got a whole roof line. Yeah.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, it was just steel beams, I think, during the championship.
Yeah, if you should see it.
I need to come up.
Brian Thompson was here a week and a half ago. He was like, his jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
He's like, Phil, when we were here in the end of July, he's like, this was not even looking anything remotely close to what it is right now.
Whoa, look at that. You got a building.
Yeah.
Holy moly, dude.
Yeah, clubhouse one.
The maintenance facility looks awesome, Phil. That thing's huge. How many square feet is that?
It's like right on 40,000.
It's a lot of equipment. Like,
yeah.
Wow. Do you do like big meeting rooms and big area for the staff and stuff like that? You guys kind of go all out?
Yep. Yeah. So we have a conference room. Like 60-person locker room, big break room. Yeah, it's really, 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 really well done.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, you may as well do it right.
Yeah. You don't get these things very often. And the good thing is the membership support behind it. It wasn't me driving it. It was them driving it. So that makes life a lot easier.
And that got all lumped into one, right? I mean, we're building a new clubhouse and a maintenance facility, or we're not doing either, right? I mean, that was kind of the vote.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it.
Well, and by today's codes and everything, they needed my current maintenance facility. Yeah. Because now you have a certain amount of parking spots you need and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's really
that makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize
how we got it.
Nice.
All right, Phil. So now this is the time when we can tell a good story about Brian. How did you guys meet? Was it back when he first started the company, or was it before that?
How did Brian and I meet? That's a great question. I definitely saw Brian's early stuff that he was doing, and I think it was with Chad and Muirfield and all that. And I'm not sure if we met through a mutual friend, Tom Waite from Precision Air, and I think Brian filmed the precision air video that I did for them at Oakland Hills, and just kind of hit it off. And then we went on the Pinehurst trip. He invited me on the Pinehurst trip, and then really it's just really taken off. Then he did a couple features with me on the Superintendent Network stuff, and you know, he almost feels like a lifelong friend, like someone that I've known since I've been like 5, 6 years old. You know?
Yeah, he'll do that to you.
Yeah.
A-Plus Rewards are back. The Andersons A-Plus Rewards program offers turf managers the best opportunity to save on our newest and most popular products this fall. Earn rewards on purchases of Contec DG, Voltec SG, Castaway DG, Carbon Coat, and more. Don't miss this opportunity. The average reward for last year's program, more than $250. For a complete list of qualifying products, visit andersonspro.com. Offer available to U.S. customers only.
Hello.
There he is.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
It's all good, buddy.
Andy, I said if this was a tea time, he wouldn't have been late.
I like legitimately, I don't know how I screwed that up. I had like everything in my calendar, and I had this in my calendar like since we set it up at 2:15.
That's okay. I was wondering if you thought we were Central Time or something like that, you know.
That's what I think. I just did the Central Time math. I like usually convert. Since I moved out here, I like generally like kind of. I don't know. I don't really live in a time zone, so I think that's like one of the issues. I'm really sorry about that.
Dude,
Thanks for
no apologies.
sitting around for me.
No apologies necessary. It worked out really well. We had podcast number 2 with Phil, basically, so we got to catch up with Phil, and it all worked out. What podcast are we recording?
Shotgun.
Nice.
So I had like my schedule all laid out.
Yeah.
Just bad. Well, when he said, "Are you still good?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." Like, I
what's wrong, Brian?
Yeah.
Just said like, "I'll talk to you in an hour."
Yeah, it was just like one of those subtle hints. I didn't want to be like, "Hey, man, where are you?" But you know, just nudge.
Should have said that.
That's okay. Hey, you're doing us a favor by joining the show. So I told Phil, you know, I said you probably got a better relationship with him than I do. Why don't you shoot him a text and give him some shit or something? Yeah, we'll see if that pushes him along.
I just didn't know I was.
It's okay. Again, no apologies necessary, man. It all worked out. I've got no kids tonight, nothing, so it's fine. You know, Phil's probably the only guy we're inconveniencing here, so it's okay.
Phil's just working away.
That's it.
He got his first vacation in his life, and you know,
and here he is.
Now he's right back to working.
Yeah,
that's all right. So how are you, Andy? Appreciate you joining us, man.
I'm doing great. I'm enjoying November. Just a little bit less to do than in September or October, but yeah, I'm enjoying. I'm excited to be here talking with you guys.
You're going to basically have the firing squad in front of you here today. You got 3 guys hammering away at you.
I hope you aren't all asking me questions.
Oh, dude, get ready. It's going to be like lightning round stuff. It's going to be insane. So start off, Andy. Just kind of tell us who you are.
I'm Andy Johnson. I'm the founder of Fried Egg Golf. People ask me what I do. I say I write and talk about golf for a living, but more and more so, I do way less writing and mostly just talking. So that's what I do. And that's who I am.
That's awesome. I always have the same problem when people ask me what I do. I'm like, I just kind of travel this country and tell stories about superintendents. It's kind of a great gig, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. It's nice when your job doesn't feel like work, and that's the way I kind of feel about what I do. And I'm sure you guys probably feel similar.
It can be fun. The schedule can be all over the place sometimes. So it's we definitely understand things being a little bit mixed up. We've had those issues before. So we really appreciate you coming on, Andy. This is something a little bit different for us. We're usually talking to people like Phil and superintendents and stuff. So it's great to get a different look from somebody like yourself in the industry. You cover a lot of great things for the game and get to talk to a lot of great people. So it's great to have you on here. We'd love to hear about how you kind of got into golf and what kind of got you into sort of working in the game that you love.
I was a kid. It was 1996. My dad, my grandpa, and my uncle used to play golf, and I was like the kid that always wanted to play golf with them. You know, they would leave on Saturday morning, especially like when we were on family vacations. That's when I'd want to like go play. Um, but anyways, my 10th birthday was 96, and my parents got me a junior set of clubs, and 1996 was an interesting time for golf. That's Tiger Woods, right? So I'm like a Tiger kid. 96 I got a junior set. I got a season pass to Lake Bluff Golf Club in the Chicago suburbs, which I could ride my bike to. My neighbor, I had a friend that lived down the street who also got a season pass, the same age. Um, it was $180. We would ride our bikes to the golf course every day of the summer, and we would sit there and had a great little chipping putting green and chip and putt. When I got old enough, I started caddying. I first caddied at Conway Farms in Chicago. Then I moved over to Knollwood Club, and I caddied, worked bag room. You know, we had a superintendent there, Randy Waller. I'm pretty convinced that he added me without adding me to his grounds team. The pro our pro asked this is he was at Knollwood Club, legendary superintendent there. Our pro asked to open the range 30 minutes early, and he said, well, we could do that. We could open the range 30 minutes early, but one of your guys has to come out and blow off the grass clippings because we're not going to do that if you want the range. It was a quintessential pro shop maintenance shop trade. So I in turn my arrival time got pushed up 30 minutes, and I was out there blowing grass off. So that was, this is my only real grounds crew work in my life. But then I was at Knollwood through college. So that was I would go to college and then work at a golf course in the summer all through college. And that's kind of my like entrance into the game, and stayed really connected into the I feel like everybody that that doesn't go into golf as a profession and that was really into golf has this period of time in their early 20s where you fall out of touch with the game. And I definitely like had that, where like a couple years I didn't play much, but then I started playing tournament golf again. And then I just got like really back deep into the game. I mean, this is like probably like 27. And I just started playing a ton of golf, and what I was watching golf and playing mid-am tournaments, and then I just one day I decided I was going to start something. I was working for some tech startups in Chicago. So I just had the entrepreneurial itch, and when you're around like a lot of tech like founders of companies, like you start to like I at least, this was me, I at least looked around and thought like, you know what, like I think I could do this if you talk to enough of them. And I got a great piece of advice from a friend of mine who had started a company, and he said, well, like, you could just talk about starting this for 6 months and try and make it perfect and the idea perfect, or you could just start it today. So that night I went home and I wrote a newsletter, and we were off and going. That was the start. So I told him my idea. It was like the idea was like a week old, and I didn't, and it's like he was so right, because like everybody thinks about ideas, and I imagine this is like kind of true of the turf industry. Like if you have a problem and you're trying to think about an idea, you think about the idea and the solution a lot. Like the best thing you could do is just try it. Like just see if it works. Right?
See what
because,
sticks, 100%.
Yeah, because like otherwise, like you're just so yeah, like that's the thing. It's like I started writing, and I started writing about just stuff that I was interested in. I have this like really like, and I think this is like generally a belief that everybody should have, is like, if I'm into something, if I'm really into something, there are probably tens of thousands of other people in the world that are really into that. And if you have tens of thousands of people that are into what you're into, and you can present the information and stuff at a reasonable level, then you've got a business. And that was like kind of my thought was like, I think like people will be into the stuff that I'm into in golf. And like a lot of the stuff that I was into in golf wasn't like necessarily mainstream, right? I love tour golf. I love competitive golf. But like what we got our name built off of really was like the architecture stuff. And the architecture stuff led me into like kind of like doing a lot of stuff around maintenance because the more you learn about architecture, the more you realize like architecture isn't worth shit without good maintenance.
I was going to ask, I mean, what exactly was that niche that you saw wasn't being met that you thought you could fulfill?
You know, I think like the most fascinating aspect of the game of golf, like what makes it different is like the playing field's never the same. Even if it's the golf course that you play every day of the week, right? The wind's going to be a little different. The turf's going to be a little bit different. The pins are never perfectly in the same exact spot. Like the pins and the tees are never. So this sport, like when you think about like the level of detail and depth in the sport, what makes it an unconquerable sport? That's what it makes it interesting. Like one of the things that frustrates me about the game of golf is we always feel like we have to like water it down. It's like, oh, we need it to be easier. Like the essence of the game is that whether you're Rory McIlroy or you're a 32 handicap that's played 7 rounds of golf, whether you're one or the other, the game is just as frustrating. I mean, that's why people become obsessed and truly sick about this sport is because it's something that you're never satisfied. Like you shoot the best round of your life. You can play. I like remember vividly like the best round I've ever played. And I still think about like I 3-putted here and I missed like a 5-footer on this hole. I still think about that. It's the best round I've ever played in my life. But I still think about like how I should have been probably 2 shots better.
That sounds like Phil presenting his golf course. You know, it's absolutely perfect, but he saw, you know, a rake mark that was just slightly higher than something else out there, right?
Well, I mean, that's the fascinating thing about golf maintenance too, is like I'm sure as a superintendent, you always feel like, oh, we could be a little bit better here, a little bit better here. You're never actually fully satisfied with everything that you're presenting.
100%, Andy. I mean, you nailed it. 100%, you know, and then, you know, you think about those times where you had the round of your life, but a lot of times you made a 40-footer in there or a 30-footer that you had no business making. Yes. You chipped in, like, couldn't get, you know, you got up and down out of a garbage can, but then you also missed like 2 3-foot birdies, you know, and you're like, oh, that could have been 2 shots better, but in reality, it could have been 4 shots worse, you know, at least with my game anyways, you know, so, You nailed it. I think the one common theme that we all have on here is the passion for golf, you know, and Andy, I would say that you've done so much for the game of golf, you know, call it from when you got started till now is just remarkable. And you've opened everybody's eyes to golf all across the world, which is so cool. And, you know, and I look at what's come along. Social media has done so much for the game of golf. I'm from Rochester, New York. I would never know about golf in Northern Michigan if it wasn't for Andy or, you know, all these guys, you know, and you think about Instagram, Twitter, and all this stuff and all the cool places that you've opened up to people and opened people's eyes. You know, I commend you for that and the golf course architecture stuff. And it's remarkable. And, you know, golf is so cool now that I can't wait to go play wherever it is because you just never know what lies around the next corner, you know? So thank you for making golf better, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate that. I mean, like, that's what's so cool about it. I think in general is just like, that's what the golf course and golf course architecture stuff is why, like, I think like one of the other reasons, like I really got drawn to that route is like, at that time in my life, I was traveling a lot for like weddings, for example. And like, you know, when you're like 27 going to a wedding or 26 and single, like you go to this wedding, you have like time to kill. It's like the perfect time to go play golf. And it was so hard to figure out like where to play golf in like other cities. Like, you know, where you like to play in your city, And like what I like always think about is like almost almost like without fail, the highest priced golf course in a city, public golf course in a city, is not the best golf course to play. Like the not the one that you're going to enjoy the most, or at least me. Like everybody's tastes are different. But it's like very true about Chicago. Like the places I recommend people go play are like so vastly different than the highest price round in the city. Now, like over time, it's changed the like what people recommend now, but like the I think that's like when I think about like when the space started, it was like the all like every like how golf courses were deemed good on the public side were basically based off of how much they charged.
Yeah.
And I think like they found this in I was in Ireland this year. I was talking to a course and I was like it's like, it's not like one of the big names. I was like, "Oh, like how much is this?" And they told me how much it was. I was like, "What?" And like that's so expensive. And they're like, "Well, what happened is like we were really cheap, but we found that nobody was coming. And we raised the prices a ton, like a ton. And then all of a sudden we were book solid.
Just the perception, huh?
Awesome.
I mean, it's just like a crazy phenomenon with golf courses, right? Like,
What a business model. Raise the prices. That'll get everybody in here.
I think it's like actually like for like a struggling golf course that's like not getting a lot of rounds. I think you should just raise the price.
Yeah.
Because like you're not making a lot of money when you're serving a lot of $20 rounds. You might as well serve like is your patronage going to decrease by 20, like this is an awful thing for affordable golf, but like when you think about it from a business side, there's no like I think like to me, like, and no offense to you, Phil, you run a extraordinary operation in Oakland Hills, 36 holes of very well maintained, immaculate turf. But to me, like the greatest feat in the world is the person that pulls off like affordable golf, busy, affordable golf that's really good golf. Like to me, like those owners and operators and superintendents that like manage to pull it off is like, like this is the American golf culture model, but like those people are like should be like put on pedestals. It's like you can deliver phenomenal golf with a crew of 5 people for $28, like Aiken Golf Club. Like, okay, like this is, and it's like a good surface. Like that's extraordinary. I'm like I'm all over the place.
No, you're good. And I think you see a lot of, I think you see a lot of great superintendents that come from that model. I mean, I know so many that had started at a public golf course, with duct tape and shoestrings and stuff, and that's made them so resourceful to be able to elevate themselves and really be great problem solvers as they move up within the industry. So I think you're right. I mean, I think there is a ton to be said about having that ability to make something out of nothing.
I think one of the things that is interesting though is like that's like a completely different job than what Phil does, right? Like Phil's job, like the pressure, like the day in day out expectation, and I think that's probably like the difference, right? Is like Phil's expectation level is like so high from like the patrons at Oakland Hills, which are members and their guests, right? Versus like if you're paying $25, it's okay if there's a spot here and a spot here, like everything, because there is like that. That's like the whole thing, like with like a meal, like you're so much more, you have so much more sympathy or empathy or whatever it would be, the right verb is for a place that is. That if you spend $10 on a meal versus $100.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So going back to the fried egg here, Andy, talk about you started with basically a newsletter or blog post, and now you're all over pretty much every media outlet that you could possibly imagine. Talk about the evolution of the fried egg and kind of where you are now.
Yeah, so the start was a newsletter and it would go out every Monday and Wednesday. And like quickly, very quickly. So I had this idea I was just gonna do a newsletter. Right? Just gonna be a newsletter. And then I was like, well, I need somewhere for somebody to sign up for the newsletter.
Were you just sending it to your buddies at first? Like, hey, read this?
It went to 10 people. And then I went through my email and I found like everybody that I'd ever played golf with or talked about golf with. So that was like, it started with like 200 people. But then I realized I needed a website because I needed somewhere for people to sign up for it. And I was like a very bad writer. My wife like was in tears at it. She would edit it. She knew nothing about golf. Thank God that's out of our relationship where she has to read what I write about golf.
For that. Yeah.
Like, but anyways, so then I needed somewhere where people could sign up for the newsletter. So I started the website. And then like, the newsletter was growing. Like I'd send them and people would sign up. Like people would forward them to people. Hey, this is a cool newsletter. People would sign up. Then I realized like, hey, if I write articles, more people will sign up because like people will get to the website and people would sign up. So like it really was around this time, like I started to write articles, and that's when I started to write articles about golf architecture because the newsletter was always kind of like pretty pro golf focused. And architecture was something I was always interested in. I was a college kid in the dorms reading Golf Club Atlas. Like
Nice.
I was like the kid that was
It's
like
a fun Friday night.
Yeah, designing holes on like what it was like Microsoft Golf 95 or something.
Yeah.
You could design golf holes in that game, I think it was. I would draw golf holes like during school and high school. But then yeah, so I like Golf Club Atlas is an amazing resource. Like I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for it. But I always found the place to be a little like it was closed off. It was like I just didn't think that golf architecture had ever made itself very approachable. Like if you wanted to learn about golf architecture, it's like read this book from 1926. Or Tom Doak and Jeff Shackelford have written some really good intro books, but like this is the digital age. So I just saw a great opportunity to like make golf architecture approachable. And I think like one of the reasons that it worked really well like was that I was someone that was like learning as I went, and I was taking readers, especially in the early days, along with me on my learning. And so I started to write about golf architecture, and like I'll never forget it. Like I published an article on 4th of July. Got it done. My wife had it 4th of July morning. I published it, and then we went out for a 4th of July celebration. But I checked back in on like our analytics on like, and it was like 10x the number of visitors we'd ever done. And it was like that. It was like, yeah, this is working. So that's when I started the podcast. Because like I realized like golf architecture was like this really, like it's the perfect example. Everybody told me like there's no way this business can center around golf architecture. There's no way. There's not an audience. And it was just that nobody had ever cultivated an audience. Like there's hundreds of thousands of golfers that are interested in golf architecture. I believe there's probably 1 million to 2 million golfers that are interested in golf architecture that just don't know that they would be really interested in it. So it's a matter of getting to them. But anyways, the podcast then started it was like, it was that whole idea is like, it's pretty similar to what it is now. It's like pro golf and golf architecture, and now there's golf maintenance stuff. But like, it's really just like the idea of the podcast was like, I'm going to talk to people that I'm interested in talking to. And yeah, so that started. And then like, as I started to evolve, like I think like I wanted to start to like show like golf architecture is such a visual thing. Like the easiest way to understand golf architecture is to see it. So the longest I've ever thought about buying something. And I mean, I was running like, I mean, I had no money.
It's usually how it starts. Yep.
Like no money.
Yeah.
Like, I was lucky. My wife had my wife, but then girlfriend, we lived together. She had a full-time job. I was able to get on her benefits plan as a domestic partner because we lived together.
Nice.
Like you talk about like just like things like, I mean, like I still think about it. Like I made less, like I'm 30 years old and I was making less than I made when I was 23. I was making less than I was made when I was a caddy at age 16. And
but you were having way more fun.
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. It was the greatest. I think about back to that time. So like I miss it so much because I woke up every day and it was like, what am I gonna make today? And I didn't make any of it well. But I wasn't caught up on like perfect. I was like gonna go explore golf for the day and like nerd out about something. And it was so fun. But anyways, yeah, then I started the pod, but then so I had no money. Like very little. I mean, like no money in the bank account. Like the bank account was just the business account was like a month-to-month thing. And I like knew I needed a drone. I knew I needed one. And this was maybe 2016. I knew I needed it, but I was so afraid of buying one because it was like $1,500. Like this was like a huge capital outlay for the company. And I mean, I thought about it for like 4 months. I mean, I was on the website every day thinking about
which one was it? Was it the Phantom Pro 2 or something? What'd you start with?
The 3.
The 3. Okay, yep, I had that one.
Or maybe no, it was the 2. It was the 2.
Yeah,
it was the 2.
Right after
it could only go 500 yards.
Yeah. So you got the step up. I started with the one where you had to attach the GoPro to and like have all the different satellites. Oh my gosh, yeah, it was a nightmare.
So I like knew I needed this to do what we really wanted to do, which was like to really show people golf art. You like people can like there are romantics that are like, I hate drone photography and videography. I like photos from the ground. You cannot show golf architecture and how a hole works out in one shot without a drone. Unless it's a par 3. Like even a par 3, you can't because you can't show the green contours. What a drone does in one picture is you can like the easiest thing to understand about golf architecture is strategy. If you're a golfer, right? Play here, you get that advantage. This angle, like this is the bunker scheme. This is how it works. Like this is why the golf hole is the only way you can do it is with a drone. And I knew this, but I couldn't. So anyways, I bought the drone. And then it's like, you went through this too. I have to learn how to fly this thing. I was going to parking lots and just practicing flying it.
Not a ton of places to practice flying that thing in Chicago, I would imagine.
I mean, the other aspect of this is I lived in the city at this point. I was like walking out to the lakefront. I was practicing. I would take pictures of like the skyline and stuff. But I was like terrified. And again, this drone was like, it was such an important purchase for me. I was terrified of losing it or like getting robbed. Like if somebody knew that it was a $1,500 piece of equipment, I was worried somebody was going to like rob me. So anyways, it was God.
Yeah.
The early drone, and then it like inevitably you crash. There was no obstacle avoidance those days. And I
Eventually
crashed a lot
something.
of drones. I eventually crashed a lot of drones. Like
Crashed it at number 5 at Oakland Hills.
I did crash at Oakland Hills. I mean, there's like a 12 course list of places I've crashed. I've crashed at Chicago Golf. Oakland Hills, Culver Academies, that course, the drone literally just fell out of the air. We had like a battery error. And it happened right in front of me. I watched it just fall out of the air and I almost cried.
Yeah. I panic anytime I take it over water. I just dread that happening, losing everything. Yeah, I've had it. I think I had one fall out of the air. It was a Phantom 2. I think it fell out of the air at Longaberger way back in the day. But yeah, that's always terrifying.
Longaberger, you're calling it before it changed to Virtues.
I won't call it Virtues, man. It's always going to be Longaberger. I'm sorry. It's always going to be Longaberger. So talk about you kind of made that connection between architecture and superintendents, but I'd love to hear kind of how you got started with talking to superintendents, because quite frankly, you're, one of, I hate the term, but really you're a golf influencer. You're one of the few that is actually doing content with superintendents. How did you kind of start doing that?
Honestly, in terms of like the fried egg superintendent journey, I knew a couple superintendents, but my first first superintendent I met through the fried egg, Phil Cuffare.
No way.
Really?
There you go.
Yeah. It was the first year of the fried egg. I was playing in a match at Oak Park. And I think it was the first full year of the fried egg. Maybe might have been the second. But anyways, Phil reached out to me through Twitter. I think that I was playing out. And anyways, we met when I played a practice round. Yeah. And so that was when Phil was at Oak Park. And yeah, so that's how I, and it was like, for me, like, at my last job, like when I worked at Knollwood, I talked to Randy Waller like all the time. He was like the guy on the golf staff, like the golf staff I talked to the most. Just sit, because I was at the range a lot. He would hit balls a lot at the range, and we just sit and talk. Just
did he put a blow in your hands then too?
Like, I think he must have appreciated my blower technique.
Yeah, careful there.
Yeah, I know.
You caught yourself.
I did. I saw where it was going. I didn't like where it was going. I imagine the turf industry's got to be worried about that. But anyways, yeah, so I met Phil. It opened up this like whole new idea. Like one of the things, like, so at Oak Park, I played this event and the course was like freaking nuclear. Phil had his approaches so tight, and Oak Park's like this very flat piece of, it might be like the flattest piece of property in the world. Like, I think like in terms of like natural features for a golf course, Oak Park might have like the least desirable natural features in the. It's like a dead flat property with like a square fence around it.
Yeah.
And there's like one creek that runs through it.
Yeah.
And but the golf course like was just alive. And it was like, I think there was like something going on in Chicago then too, where Phil had Oak Park just diabolical. Brian Palmer at Shore Acres, Curtis James at Old Elm, and Scott Bordner at Chicago Golf. There was just this like change. Like, as someone who had played tournament golf their entire life in Chicago, I look at that period of time. It was like that group of superintendents there completely changed the golf culture in the city. And forever and ever, the gold standard of Chicagoland maintenance was kind of like the old school Medina narrow neck, Butler National, everything kind of narrow, lots of rough, and everything narrows in at the neck, and then it's like thick grass, green, softer. And this era, that group of it was, all at that time, all young superintendents, completely revolutionized the way golf was there. And I think like playing that event at Oak Park, like it illuminated to me, like this is a good golf course, but the conditioning makes it a great golf course, and like the level of precision that was required those 2 days that I played there was just like, it was like if you hit great shots, you're rewarded, but like if you hit a great shot with the wrong shape, it was going over the green, right? And like you just start to like think about what that gets out of the architecture. And I think that was like probably like a crystallizing moment, honestly, in the journey of the Fried Egg, was playing that event at Phil's course there. And just generally like being in Chicago and what was happening there, where you just saw like this changing of the guard. And I think it's like happened across the country at this point. But it was definitely like a moment for like Chicago turf, because like you drive up to Milwaukee, for example. I still like, I think Milwaukee's kind of undergoing the change now. It's turning over, but you drive up to Milwaukee in 2016 and the courses would be like pillows. And then you come down to Chicago and they just be rocket ships, right? And I think that was like the thing, like you just realize like how much more the details matter when a golf course is set up that way, where as a player, if you're really trying to score, you need to have like full command of the ball. Like everything, like the strike matters. If you catch it a fraction off the toe or the heel, it matters. But then for like the average player, for like my mom, who hits a low, like might carry 120 yards, like a low, just
like my
low runner, like that golf setup, all of a sudden the ball's going, and it's going 220 because it's rolling 100 yards. And I think that's like the thing, like that probably opened my eyes to like the connection and how important the connection of turf and architecture was.
Yeah, I totally agree, Andy. I mean, that's superintendents and golf course architecture go together. And I think that group of time in Chicago, which really throws it back to memory lane, it was,
Brian Moore
Yeah.
at Glenview too.
Yeah.
Didn't mention he was
Scott
great.
Pavelko.
Yeah, Pavelko at Bobolink. I mean, crazy when you start to look at where everybody's gone. Like you're at, Oakland Hills, like Scott, like it's wild. Brian's runs all the courses at Terry Ed. Scott Bordner runs all the Union League courses. Pavelko's at Castle Pines. Like it is a wild like thing, like where they were at all this concentration of outstanding superintendents were all together in a city at this moment in time. This is like anything. It's like a lot of entrepreneurship though is like luck. And like for me, being able to talk to Phil, being able to talk to Brian Palmer, being able to talk to Brian Moore, Scott Pavelko, like that was like, I mean, that was who I was hanging out with, because I needed places to fly the drone. I didn't have any money to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And these were my people that were allowing me to learn how to fly a drone.
Yeah.
So Phil, along those lines, Andy comes to you and asks if he can fly his drone at your property. Do you get value? And then, because at that time, drones really weren't that popular with superintendents. Is that something you looked at then? If Andy would come out and be like, oh my gosh, totally different perspective and I could do things differently?
Yeah, totally. And, he brought that perspective with him instantly to see the work that we were doing, but to see it from 40,000 feet, I would call it. But I mean, I know he's not going 40,000 feet. And then, I think of the one picture you took, Andy. I think it was a 15 of Oak Park with the Chicago skyline in the background.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, there might even been a plane in the sky from O'Hare because the planes were flying over that. But to see that shot was like mesmerizing. But very rarely, and I think at that period of time, I mean, me and Palmer and all those guys would always talk, but do you run into someone that shares the same passion as you, in this game, or likes architecture? And I think being the superintendent, like all of us, we loved golf course architecture. We just didn't know guys were out there like Andy who liked golf course architecture that wasn't a golf course superintendent. And for him to, integrate superintendent with architect with what he does, I mean, it just meshes it together, and it's the perfect recipe for educating people. And now you look at where the game of golf is going, and Bandon Dunes, and stream song. You can sit here for hours and name places, but has really shed light on the architecture, the great architecture that's across the world and in our own backyard. Which I think it just makes this game so much more fun. It makes the golf industry so much cooler, from the turf side of it, because now we're getting recognition for maintaining these great golf courses with great golf course architecture. And Andy, you are correct, though. I think like Aiken Golf Club is a way cooler job than Oakland Hills, and I respect those guys so much more than what we do every day.
I don't know. It's different. It's a completely different job.
Yeah,
that's like the thing.
Yeah, it's a completely different mindset. And my favorite golf to play is something like that. And what I do is stressful. It's fun. Don't get me wrong, and it's at the highest level. But it's almost, I'd say this, and I know we're on a podcast, but it's almost at a fake level. I mean, it's non-realistic at sometimes for a lot of people.
I think like one of the things that I find interesting, that I'd love to do something down the road on. I love golf courses that are run by former superintendents.
Yeah.
Like that, like that, like I love the stories, and like the few that I've been to, and I can't remember all off the top of my head, but like to me, like a golf course is run by superintendents or former superintendents, like that retire and effectively buy them, are always like wonderful places to play golf.
Yeah.
And it's like almost to like a T. Like I think like something that like drew me to superintendents also is I was an environmental science major at Illinois. Not a turf major, but like I had to take chemistry. I had to take some classes that I was way out of my depth. And like to me, like what was kind of crazy, and I think is like starting to change, is like these are like people with like master's degrees in science that work at a golf course. Like these are the most educated people at the golf course. Like I just thought it was kind of crazy. Like I felt like 10 years ago almost now when it was like the superintendent was just like kind of like, oh, that's the superintendent. He cuts the grass. And it's like, no, there's a lot more to this than that. Like, and I think that's like the other thing is like it was an underserved, like interesting aspect about golf. Like if you understand turf a little bit more, you are going to play better golf. Like that's the other thing. Like I'm like a big believer in like golf IQ.
Yeah.
Like if you know it's going to be, if you know it's hot and humid and you're going to play a match against your buddy, you know the greens are going to be soft because they got to protect it. You know they're going to be a little slower because like you just can't get them really like you have to, you can play a little bit more aggressive. Like these are all like I think like this is where not watering it down just makes people better players. Is like if you understand these little tiny margins, you are a better golfer. Like if you understand like the like a little bit, just even a surface level amount about grasses that you're playing on, you're going to understand how they interact with your club more. If you're like, okay, like Bermuda rough. If the ball is in there, like the Bermuda rough is super unpredictable. Like it is like these are the nature, like the balls, you're going to sit up, sit down. You're not going to really know what's going to happen, but like having an understanding of like it being sticky, like it, like there are just aspects of grass, like having an understanding of grass and what you're playing on as a regular golfer, it helps you. And that's just generally like, I think like what I think about with like agronomy, why I'm interested in it is that I know like having conversations with superintendents about this stuff it just helps raise my IQ as a golfer. It's a selfish pursuit. I'm just trying to raise my own IQ.
Definitely the right people to talk to for sure.
I'm glad you talked about the identity a little bit because that's something that we certainly have struggled with. And it's, a big reason, like yourself, you starting the Fried Egg, Brian and I starting companies like this to really highlight and shed some light on the superintendents and all the work being done. And, we found that too, that it's people come to the golf course to play the course, but there sometimes isn't that respect. So, people like you and other influencers in the golf world being able to talk about the agronomy and all the work and, all these people that have, high level education, where do you think we kind of are right now with the whole, kind of the state of turf and the average golfer?
I think there's more awareness to it than ever before, right? I think I think the industry just in general is at like a very interesting crossroads with the combination of technology that's entering the space, the workforce issues like with like recruitment issues. But that being said, like I think like generation it's like there are different generations they value like what I've always like thought about with like superintendents is like it is like such a delightful job. Like when you think about like you like sure there are pressures. Every job has pressures, right? Um, but like you work outside, you always have different problems. Like there's like a lot of like great things about the job. And I think like when it comes to the average golfer, I do think that there's more awareness about turf and agronomy than ever before. I think back to like foreplay doing the thing about Winged Foot years ago. Like, I mean, like that wouldn't have ever happened like 10 years before that, like the idea of like when you think about where golf coverage has come from, I think like people like No Laying Up, they, have they appreciate conditioning, understand what goes into it. You see, like, I mean, like even like leaps and bounds, like stuff, like it's small, but like remember PGA Tour events used to not list the superintendent on the like the little graphics.
Wasn't that long ago, yeah.
Like they now do that. Superintendents have been making it into live from, and you think about the Josh Lewis, Brandel Chambly standoff 10 years ago with the cowboy. What was he called him a cowboy? Brandel did, I think.
Yeah, Chambers,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He called Josh cowboy. So like you think about like where it was 10 years ago to like where it is today, I think it's like leaps and bounds forward. And I think like what's coming to light is like that this is a real science. Because like I think that was like the misconception is like people thought it's like, I'll just get out there with your lawnmower and cut the grass.
Throw some water on it too while you're at it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think and like people are now starting to realize like, no, this is the most intensely difficult playing surface like to perfect, right? No other sport that I can think of has to maintain 200 acres of like playing surface. Like you think about Wimbledon, it's like a court.
It's not even close.
You think about a baseball field, right? It's like you're not pushing, none of the grass is being pushed to the limits of like green heights and fairways and approaches. The grass is like effectively like a short rough, right? So like you just think about like the stress and the strain of it. It is like a supremely, it's the, especially when you get it, like Phil's going to be getting into championship season. He had the junior this year, but like big time championship season. You think about that. It's like, it's wild, right? I got to ask you guys a question. This has been on my mind.
Fire away.
And I don't want to come on here and make a mockery of championship golf. But what if there were no volunteers? Would the championship be okay?
Interesting question. I mean, yeah, I think you would have a lot of different playing conditions.
It's just like by having like 100 people, you can take it. Like, are we talking like 4 percentage points? Like how many percent? This is something I thought about this summer a lot.
Well, I mean, I think like you look at, double cutting greens and mowing fairways in the morning and the evening and, backpack, keep getting all the grass clippings. Heaven forbid there's a grass clipping on the fairway when they're done mowing, and like bunkers perfectly raked with like smoothed edges, like Aussie style. And you think of that stuff, no way you're doing that without a volunteer, And I totally get it. That's an interesting point, Andy, but
like, what are we getting out of? Like, I think about it. It's like,
I mean, you're getting
hundreds of people bombing it, right?
Yeah.
It's like this.
You go to Muirfield every year. I mean, they're hand rolling greens.
Yeah, they do it every year.
Every golf course has its little detail that's probably like a little over the top. TPC at Sawgrass with the rotary mowers, and this year with me with the backpack blowers, and
yes, you can do them. I think that the level of expectation that the tour and that these whoever's hosting the championships, the level of expectation that they have for the golf course, you can't do it anymore without the volunteers.
Yeah.
You think of a US Open that has tee times starting at 6:50 where the sun is, pretty much just coming up, and you're expecting a perfect golf course without, a bad lie or all that kind of stuff.
1 in 10 tees, by the way. They're going
exactly. 1 in 10 tees. I mean, that's the majority of the tour events. They're expecting a golf course ready to be played without mowers, still on the golf course, because there's the whole noise ordeal. You don't want to hear a mower in the background.
I didn't even think about that. All the mowers have to be off. The
course. I mean, the expectation is, in most of these golf courses, it's kind of tough to eliminate traffic. Not interfering with play at all. So yeah, I mean, it's the level of expectation, just in my experience and my, travels to all the different events. You can't do it to the level that is required by these governing bodies of golf without having 70 to 100 people there to get it done. It's just not going to happen.
So Andy, we did 36 holes for the Junior Am Monday and Tuesday, the medal play, by 7 a.m. 1 in 10 tee times. I mean, that's
wild.
Dude, that's even harder, because usually it's
with
like
no one
courses.
on the golf course. With no one on the golf course at 7 a.m. starting at 4, so you're talking 3 hours of maintenance. Off the golf course by 7, signed, sealed, delivered, 36 holes, going off 1 in 10 tee.
Crazy.
All day. No time to do it. So going till dark too. There's no time to do after.
Yeah, 264 players going to dark. And then, when you think about consistency and stuff, and then they expect the same playing conditions at 7 a.m. at 6 p.m.
Here's another question.
I love it though, and I love the challenge.
If tournament golf was all like every course got to set it up themselves, wouldn't that be way more interesting?
It would be.
You get like the local flavor of every course, more or less, right?
Yeah.
Like people could use like different rakes. People could like, I think about like, I think it'd be pro golf would be so much more interesting if there were no governing body setup people.
Yeah.
You probably have harder conditions at a lot of these places, because
probably
most superintendents want to push it a little
Oakmont,
further than
Oakmont. They would never finish the first round.
A couple years ago when Oakmont and Longview hosted the USAM.
Yeah.
It's like there was a big rain event between the first and the second days. And I think it was like maybe like one person that played Oakmont the day that it was baked out as shit. Like one guy made it to match play. Like everybody else got it the day after, like it rained like 3 inches, so they got it like soft. So like the people that played Longview and then Oakmont after the rain, like I think it made up 63. It was something like it was at least 59 plus of the field was Longview.
You're right.
Oh man.
Jeez. But Brian, I have an idea for a video. We just grab an average Joe golfer and we bring him into the mix for the tournament week and see how far they make it. See how many split shifts they can do.
See how many times they show up late.
We'll
I don't
get
know.
Andy to do it. We'll get Andy to come in and
I
volunteer
don't know.
at something.
I don't think I'm signing up for that.
We'll see if Mike wants you out at Oakmont. That's going to be a
Oh.
fun one. Come on.
I've got a podcast. You guys don't understand.
yeah.
You guys don't understand the rigors of the podcasters go through U.S. Open Week. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Like, I mean, somebody's got to talk about, inane stuff.
Well, there's nothing better to get content than being there at 3:00 in the morning with us when we get started. You're going to get the inside scoop.
I know. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna. I asked the question because I don't think I'm cut out for it. That's really why I'm asking the question about it.
Well, I can guarantee you'd be welcome.
Oh,
at any
absolutely.
event, so.
Yeah, I think you would love it.
Yeah. So I got to know, as much time as you've been to these different places and you've kind of been behind the scenes now with superintendents, what's one thing that's maybe really surprised you as far as what they do from an operational standpoint?
I think the management of people is the interesting thing. Like, most people that are like considered great managers, they deal with they're in these professional settings and they're dealing with this is my professional workforce that is this type of person, and their interview process, everything they do kind of selects out, their organizational structure creates archetypes of people, right? And then you're applauded because you run this great company managing this effectively the same person, right? When I look at turf teams, there's just such an array of personalities, languages, skill sets, ages. You'll have 15-year-olds to 75-year-old retirees to there's just the management piece of it, I think, is, to me, the most impressive, is not only delivering a really high level product, but the orchestrating of a team with none of the most of the people are all completely different. This is not managing an accounting firm with 25 accountants, right? Which generally fill a certain personality type. Not to stereotype all accountants, but this is the management piece of being a superintendent. I think it's the hardest thing. And when I see certain people struggle, that you think are going to be rock star superintendents, just in general, I think I've learned that the hardest part about going from an assistant superintendent to a superintendent is understanding that you're a manager. You need to empower, train, and create people with skill sets to do the work that you would do. Because I think the natural instinct of young superintendents, and I could be completely wrong, this is me just observing from an outside with limited knowledge, young superintendents, I think, generally believe oh, I need to go do this myself. But really what needs to be done is that they need to train people try and train people and allow them to make mistakes along the way, but with the hope of eventually having people that are better at doing these things than them, where they can continue to work on the manager. Because managing the team, getting whether your crew's 5 people or 55 people, getting those people aligned on the same goal, motivated, with a job that's can be monotonous if you're not prepping for a tournament or doing construction work. It's a day in, day out. So that piece of it, keeping the team motivated, keeping the attention to detail high, and allocation of staffing, that is a hard job. And then you throw in the high expectations. You have to be able to to trust your people and build trust. And I mean, I think that's the thing. And then meanwhile, you're training people that have never mowed anything, I just, to me, the people management and the training aspect are just, I couldn't imagine trying to do it. I'd be a horrible superintendent.
You'd be surprised, buddy. You'd be pretty good. Hey, Andy, I got to take off, buddy.
Hey, great chatting with you, Phil.
Great chatting with you.
It's always good seeing you.
That is a really good point, what he made. I'm having a hard time getting off because it just opens my eyes, and I got an engineer from Ford that works for me, and then I have H2B guys, and then I have, this plethora. I have a guy that's going to school to be a barber. I also have a guy that's, a retired superintendent. And you think of all this, and to manage this stuff every single day, it's hard, and then you get a couple of those guys to leave and you bring in the next guy that's got something. And, and then these young assistant superintendents too, right? And you get the guy that's worked at XYZ club versus the guy that thinks he wants to work at XYZ club. And it's a plethora. That's the fun part, though, I would tell you right now. The agronomic stuff is easy at this point in my career, where the managing of people is the most challenging, but the most fun and rewarding and satisfying by far. So,
yeah, it's probably changes too, and like your focus changes. Like when you're a young superintendent, agronomics is probably like everything.
Yeah, yep. But thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Phil. Go get your vote in.
Yep. Andy,
all right, buddy.
Good seeing you, buddy.
Great seeing you, Phil.
All right, thank you.
Right, take care.
Thanks a lot for this, Phil.
But thank you, Adam. Keep the mustache too, bro.
No, you got it, brother. Will do.
Movember continues. I love it.
November's going.
So I think based on
does Movember count? Does Movember count if you just never shave your beard and then you just go to the mustache for like 3
man,
days
do it
at the end?
That's the best way to do it.
Full beard counts anyways, doesn't it? Doesn't the full beard still count?
So.
No. No. Well,
I don't know. They've changed it.
Yeah.
But he mentioned the vote there. I wanted to bring up a little something. I was watching the last couple episodes of the Fried Egg, and you guys did a little bit of an election talk about, the state of golf depending on the election. Do you think that would affect the turf side or the maintenance side at all, depending on if it goes one way or the other?
I don't know.
I was worn out with that topic too.
When you guys were doing,
I don't think I even want to wade. I don't even want to wade into that subject matter and speculate either which way.
When you guys were running for king or running for president, the golf. Oh my God, I was laughing so hard. You guys had me going. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I hope it came off as silly. It was supposed to be lighthearted.
Oh, it was definitely lighthearted,
100%. A non-lighthearted week.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow. I cannot wait.
I don't think it's going to be done tomorrow.
No, you're right. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
They just keep people sitting on pins and needles. It's crazy.
Just over it. If I see one more commercial about it, I'm gonna freak out. So.
You're a swing state guy.
Big time swing state guy. Yeah. You guys are already locked up out there.
Yeah, why we pay these high taxes in California so that we don't have to watch election commercials.
Lucky you. Yeah, you guys.
That's what the cost of living is. Every 4 years we don't have to.
You pay for the weather and don't have to listen to political ads. You're lucky you. I'm gonna have to start rethinking moving to California. I like it. But I wanted to go back to the previous question about the surprise and leadership and stuff, and I think I kind of have an idea we're going to go with the answer potentially. But what do you think makes a great superintendent?
Probably that it's come across as like all different personalities, right? You got superintendents like Phil that are I think like Phil's like a very like I think he's like a great person who's really invested in growth, but like he is a serious superintendent. Like you're coming to work like and like you've got like that type of personality, and then you've got like your Kyle Heckland. Sandhills is a total goofball, right? Like you start some morning meetings, just running down jokes. But like there's a lot of ways to skin the cat. I think like what works is being yourself. And this is like with any pursuit in life, is that the best way to be successful is to be authentic to you. Don't try and be the person that you worked under. You have to create your own style that fits who you are, because that's like what you're going to be most comfortable in. And like you're going to get in high stress situations. If you're trying to be someone else and you're stressed out about a lot of things, like that's not going to work, right? What works is like when you're comfortable being who you are. So I think like that to me is like the first one. Like I imagine like a lot of like agronomy crews fit the personalities of their leaders, right? Um, and obviously you have to weigh some of the club and what the club wants, all right? I think like I think great superintendents are generally in great situations, right? Like, and they know, like, I think like some of the things that I've been most impressed about when you talk to superintendents is like jobs that they pass on, you know? They under like I imagine it's a profession that you're always trying to get like, it's like a profession that is really rewarding when you get like all the way to the top tier. And it's rewarding at other different levels, but like it feels like to me as an outsider, like a very much of a race to the top, you know, 60, 70 jobs, right? Is that true?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
It certainly can be.
I think there's different personalities and like people are content with other things. Like but like with like that being part of the job, it's like it's hard, but like sometimes the best thing you can do is say like, you know what? I think I'm better off at my local club than this top 100 club because like that place that doesn't fit my vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like you
100%.
gotta like the course and the club culture have to fit your personality, right? If you're like you're super laid back manager, kind of like a chill dude or gal, Oakmont's probably not gonna be the place for you, right? And that being said, like if you're high energy Oakmont, like that, like I wouldn't recommend going up and like working at like in northern Michigan at like if that's like what you're trying to get out of it, right? So I think like that's the thing that I've realized like, you know, I don't know, there's just like so many great superintendents. Like Stephen Beal this year, I spending a couple days with him. Another guy that came from Chicago in that same time period, and what he's done at Wolf River and like the satisfaction, and just like I guess like fulfillment that you would get from like completely rebuilding a golf course for basically nothing and then providing this like awesome product for $32. Like to me, there's like a lot of like what he's done is like been super impressive, but he's like a completely different cat than, you know, like Phil or I so I think like I don't know, does that make any sense?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, the more I travel around and meet with different superintendents, I find a huge correlation between the atmosphere and the culture of the club and the personality of the superintendent. I think that's when you find the best situations, or when those two are aligned. And I think there's a right fit for everybody. Not everybody has to pursue and not everyone has to be at a top 100 club. I know plenty of lifelong assistants at municipal golf courses, and they love the benefits and they love the lifestyle and all that. So it is. I think it's all dependent on the person and what they're hoping to achieve in their career. Because, being a top 100 superintendent doesn't mean you're a success. That's not everyone's end goal. So I don't know.
I mean, like a great example would be Kyle Krecklow at Pioneer Creek in Minneapolis. Like he worked at Maidstone and Friar's Head and was absolutely in that like upward, trajectory, like work at a top tier club. And he just decided to move home and work the golf course his family owns. And you know what? That golf course is like getting really good, and like honestly, like some of that too is like I think like that's like you have to realize what makes you happy, because like I think like he's like into architecture, like what a dream job that is. Like you get to just like kind of like update your family golf course over time.
Your own little toy to tinker with over time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, you get to have Dave Axland and his friends come out for like 10 days every year, and you met Dave through working at Friar's Head, so you had this access to the world-class golf architect who comes out, and for 2 weeks you just mess around on bulldozers and make stuff, and like, yeah, sure, like, you know, at one point I'm sure he was probably like, you know what, I'm gonna be the super at Shinnecock Hills or something like that, like some club like that. You know, he's working at Friar's Head and Maidstone. But like, you know what he's doing is pretty dang cool. And like, I go there, like, you know, I spent a couple days at Phil's place. I spent a couple days at Kyle's place, and it's like both places. I'm like, man, what a cool job this guy's got. You know, I think like that's the thing. You have to find the job that's right for you.
And it's such a tough job too. Like, it's not for everybody. I know you joked a little bit and saying you couldn't do it, and you know a lot about golf, and you're a pretty smart guy, so I'm sure you'd be fine. But there's a lot of people that have tried it and can't do it, or have trained for it and don't make it, because it's a hard job. And that's why Brian and I have so much respect for these men and women, because they are very well-rounded people who have worked hard to get to where they are. And either they work their way up and they work at a championship golf course, or they find a small patch of heaven somewhere to call their own and take care of their own crew. So there's a lot of hardworking men and women in this industry, and if it's something that doesn't work for you right away, there are other places to land in the industry too. So we are fortunate that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a great community. Like, that's one of the other things that stands out to me is like just like how much camaraderie there is across cities and across the country.
Yeah, it's a very tight community. What is something maybe that you wish, or that you are trying to communicate to the general golfer about what people do, what the superintendents do? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that people just understand that like the golf course is a living species. You know, I think like
you just don't show up and the golf course is made to play, right? It takes something.
Like, I mean, like I get people that like that host me and apologize if it's like a little soft, and I'm like, it's 97 degrees.
It's understandable.
Like, the golf course has to be watered. Like, they're just trying to keep this place alive. I think like that's like probably. I think like understanding that like this is a moving target, and it can't be perfect every day. I think like the other thing I'd love eventually to get to is like what do we need? I think one of the things that like with the turf industry that like is like, it seems like it's like an arms race for like with budget, and everybody's running to spend more money to get like percentage points of increases in the quality of turf. Like, you like, we're going to spend 500,000 more dollars, and instead of being at 90% great agronomy, we're going to get to 92. It's like, is that really important? Like, what if we took away $500,000 and you were at 88% or 87%? Like, I just think like that is kind of the like the conversation I'd like to start to see is what is really great golf conditioning, and what great golf conditioning is different for every facility. But just in general, I think the race for speed on the greens is something that really I would like to see kind of run the other direction that it's running right now. The idea that we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars blowing up old greens that are original greens because we want faster greens that are flatter, like that's silly to me. But like that goes back to like each club's unique, club culture is unique. What clubs want is unique, and they pay the bills. Like, it's like a hard thing to balance, but like, to me, I think like optimization and getting better is like really great, but like I think the way we should be measuring who's getting better is who's adding ticks on the percentage without increasing the budget or reducing the budget, right? Like, to me, that should be more the barrier. It shouldn't be we're just throwing, millions of more dollars at it to get a couple fractions better, you know?
It's definitely well said. I mean, why not?
I
If you
think
can do
like you
more with
said,
less, it's always good.
Yeah. And I think you said it right. I think it boils down to the club, right? Because every club, every course is going to have different expectations. And I think a lot of times it may be efficiencies where they're looking for that increase in budget, maybe to be more efficient in one area to focus more time on another area. I mean, that's kind of what I've been seeing as far as, especially like you mentioned, old golf courses getting blown up. Everything has a shelf life, right? I don't know. I haven't seen too many places doing it to get green speeds. I think it's about efficiencies. It's about what's under the grass.
A lot of softening of greens.
Yeah. Have you really seen a lot of softening of greens out there?
Yeah.
Really?
Awesome. I mean, like almost all these big renovations massed into it are softening of greens for more pins.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true. I am seeing.
Do you want fast greens, or do you want really cool greens?
Yeah.
Give me me personally, I want really cool greens.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
But that doesn't, and I think like this is a lot with like club culture. This is, I think, more centered around club culture with we have to have as fast of greens as our neighbors. It's like, well, here's were built in 1920 and theirs were built in 2000. And your 1920 greens are way more unique than their 2000 greens. And if you want them as fast as those greens, you just have to make them like those greens. So it's like, to me, like speed it's an interesting topic. I think
nothing over 11, right, Andy?
I wouldn't mind it.
I know you guys talk about that on your show, nothing over 11, but it makes sense, right? That way people can be more creative and architects can be more creative and there can be more pinnable locations on greens.
I think like firm and fast is, and I realize I'm like kind of one of the people that push firm and fast, but like it doesn't necessarily mean firm and fast. Like the greens don't have to be fast; they have to be true, right? Firm and true is a better green moniker, I think, because you can have like greens running 10 and have them be really true and really firm. But yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like all the costs come back to the consumer, right? Like if a course's maintenance budget is $5 million, like they're making that back on the consumer somehow, right? So like if we want golf to be, I mean, some people don't want golf to be more accessible, more affordable, but I'm a big believer in like, we need to have more people playing the sport. And if we want more people playing the sport, the cost has to be lower. So like to me, like one of the things is like, okay, let's talk about maintenance expectations. We've gotten so good at agronomy. Like, can we take a step back to realize like how far advanced this field has gotten in the last 10 years?
Leaps and bounds. It's amazing. It's amazing how far this industry has come. I don't know where it's going. That's kind of the crazy thing with all the new tools and technology. It's just crazy where it's going.
Well, that's the thing with technology. It just keeps pushing it forward and nobody ever stops and asks us, do we actually need this? And I think like we're at a moment with golf maintenance to a certain extent. Like I'm excited about autonomous because of like what it's going to be able to do for other like freeing up labor for like one of the biggest issues. But I think we're at a point with golf maintenance that there needs to be like a second to pause here and say like, what is it that's like really like, what is great maintenance? And like, I don't know. I just think
pushing
that,
like the ball rollback. You pushing for the maintenance rollback now too?
I don't think it's a maintenance rollback. It's just like let's take a second and pause and just think of like, like what are the stuff that we need and what are stuff that we don't need, And the second, if we get a little bit more measured, it just resets the idea of the call. Like because listen, like if you do the numbers of like trying to run an affordable golf course, it's like so hard.
Yeah.
And you start to see some of the bills of country club dues. It's just like, this is insane where it's going, like from where it was 10 years ago. And I think like, maintenance is just one part of it, but like we just got to be conscientious of what we're going and sometimes ask, do we need to go here?
Yeah, I agree. Well, before we let you go here, I know you're starting you've got the all turf is local. I saw the Brambles.
All grass is local.
All grass is local. Sorry. Yes. The all grass is local. Just watched the one with Mike at Oakmont the other day. Fantastic stuff. So what's next? What else? What do you got coming up? 2 more episodes, right?
We got 2 more episodes, and we're starting to plan out the next year of them. So we have George Wright, Len Curtin, the legend Len Curtin, George Wright, which is I think like what we wanted to do with this is like show just like dramatically different places, dramatically different approaches, like, and present how they do it, right? Like if you go into the Brambles one, there are comments that are like, these people are crazy,
Yeah.
If you go into the Oakmont one, there's comments like, wow, like I don't know if this is good for golf, right? Like just because we can. So like I think that's what we wanted to do, was present different places and present the way they do turf. Like it's not our place to say whether one's good or one's bad. What we're doing is telling the story of how they approach agronomy. And so we wanted to go to like 4 very unique places. So Brambles is like a new build that's trying to do something, grow grass, grow a different type of grass and present golf in a completely different manner. They have sheep out there. It's super fascinating. They're trying to grow this zoysia at the furthest north and highest altitude of anybody trying to grow their zoysia. And the whole idea of it is that it's going to be drought resistant. Oakmont obviously is like, it's Oakmont.
It's Oakmont.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Oakmont is not like anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's a machine. I watched that. I didn't go to that one. I was at the Brambles one. Cameron Hurtis, our great producer, ran point on Oakmont. And like I would talk to him after shoot days, but like I mean, I loved like just the idea of like their mentality of there's a point where they said we overschedule every day. We know we aren't going to get everything done, but we're going to try and get as much of it done as possible. And like that mentality to me just like resonated with like a startup, right? Where like
yeah.
There's no way, like every day my to-do list, I feel like gets longer, but I start every week with a to-do list.
Yeah.
And it like, by the end of the week, I hope I check off a lot. And like some weeks I get close and I'm like, God, that was great, but I never get done with it. And like that just resonated with me. So then we go to George Wright will be the next one. And it's like, how do you... They have some crazy employment laws. I'm not sure, like employment rules, like you have to be a city resident, you have to pass a drug test, and then you make minimum wage. So it's like your labor pool is tiny. You have this golf course that's like, it's one of the busiest golf courses in the world. It's a really great golf course, like Bones, that they're improving regularly, and they have like a shoestring crew and budget. So like we go from Oakmont to like just like complete opposite. And then we finish with Chambers Bay, which is like, I think it's an interesting story from like, here's this golf course that got built for US Opens that had this visceral reaction to turf, and now they're transitioning to their next era of golf, so we're starting to formulate next year's, and I've started to think about some of them, like what would be good ones, and it's exciting. Like I'm excited. Like I've loved how the first 2 have turned out, and I'm really excited to like continue to do these when you just because like you guys know from what you do, like every turf operation is so different, right? And the personalities of the supers are all different. I think it's really neat.
All the different characters in the turf world, eh? They're full of them.
Be the best. It would be the best reality show, no question.
Just
Hands
at a
down,
shop.
The best reality show would be at a maintenance shop. I don't know many courses that would actually allow that to happen because of all the shenanigans.
Nobody
that
be
go on in
employed
there.
after.
It would be the absolute best reality TV show. I would be hooked, no question.
You guys spend more time in there. I'm like kind of like a couple hour and done guy. You
Pop
guys
in,
are like
pop
a couple days. You're like a week long in bed.
Yeah, only for tournaments. Only for tournaments.
You get a little bit more of the real picture.
Yeah. They trust us with some of those more unique stories every now and then. So it's good. They never make air, but awesome. Well, before we let you go, Andy, is there anything you want to talk about?
No, I just I love what you guys do. It's nice to be just tangentially in the same space. So I appreciate you guys having me on. It was fun chatting. I hope I didn't just ramble too much.
No, it was great.
No.
Love getting the perspective, and again, appreciate what you're doing for this industry. I mean, it's again, like I mentioned in the beginning, there are not too many people, covering the golf space that talk about superintendents. So having someone like you and the Fried Egg shining a light on the superintendent profession is much needed, and it truly is making a difference for sure. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, superintendents are. I don't want to offend anybody else in the golf course industry, but resoundingly, superintendents are my favorite people I meet when I travel to golf courses. It's my preferred entry method.
Absolutely. It's usually
I hope not a lot of members are listening to this, but like when I go down like the list of like how I might go visit a golf course, like it's superintendent and architect like all the way up at the top. And then it's like
and then everybody else, huh?
Yeah, and it's just like kind of like an abyss downward from there,
But like you said, I mean, if you're an architecture focused outlet, right? So I don't know many people that understand how the architecture of the golf course works better than a superintendent. Obviously, a pro understands the strategy of playing it and all that. But the superintendents, I mean, it's their responsibility to maintain the integrity of the architecture, right? I mean, without them and the way they maintain a golf course, I don't know, like maybe it's a strong statement, but the architecture really doesn't matter if it's not being prepared properly.
What I also like is like you just could talk, like,
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're at Oakmont or if you're at public course down the street. Most of them want to put their jeans on, grab a beer, and talk shop, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like my favorite thing is they're not trying to like show me stuff. We just play and talk, because it's like like that's what I like about it is that with just hanging out with the superintendents. It's just a much better. It's just I love like I mean they know every corner, everything that's ever happened to generally like the great historian aspect of it like this is what happened here, this is why it's here, it's so it's I love hanging out with superintendents. It's some of my favorite memories are with them, so
They're a special breed for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for having me on.
We can't thank you enough for coming on here. Honestly, you do a great job promoting what we do in our industry and everything. And, the Fried Egg was a big inspiration for Turf Today on Instagram and all of your drone shots and everything. Like when we created that page, it was all about the beauty of the golf course, and the Fried Egg was highlighting it very well. So thank you for coming on today. And thanks for everything you do for the industry.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Take care, Andy. Good to see you.
Great seeing you,
brother.
Guys.
Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. Another excellent episode. We really want to thank Phil Cuffare for joining us as a co-host. We also want to thank Andy Johnson from the Fried Egg. Unbelievable interview. Our sponsors, Toro and the Andersons. Couldn't do it without you guys. Everybody have a great week. Keep those reels sharp. We'll see you soon.